While watching films, you might always see them ending up in a crash or getting shut down, but real-life experience isn't like that.
In the movies, helicopters explode in 80% of the time, and they're often used for sinister purposes or for the wrong purposes, at least. They are usually not portrayed in a very positive way.
Yeah, in an action movie, that's usually what happens, yeah. But yeah, luckily we're not flying an action movie every day.
That's it. We can do it again.
A funny reaction I can get sometimes when I say that I'm a helicopter pilot. Now, I used to fly airplanes also. I can fly an airplane, but I don't work as an airplane pilot. When I mention that I'm a helicopter pilot, some people can ask, oh yeah, okay, have you ever considered to be like a real pilot? You know, and then they're thinking about airplanes, of course. For a lot of people, they think that a helicopter is this small, like a cheese bubble cover thingy, you know, with a small toothpick out as the tail and like a cartoon flying around with not much capability. But actually, when you're looking at what the helicopters are capable today, when it comes to IFR flying, flying in instruments.
Not a lot of people know what all the different jobs you can do with helicopters.
Yeah.
Like the aerial work, to HEMS flying, to offshore flying.
It's a quite challenging environment, and the pilots have to be really, really well trained. As it comes to the level of difficulty, I would not say that the helicopters in any way is an easier way out than airplanes.
My first memories of helicopter was growing up right next to the helipad at the local hospital.
I could hear them from quite a distance, you know, as they approached to the hospital, and I would jump onto my bicycle and pedal like a madman to watch them.
First thing I remember is when I was 7 years old. I got to tag along on a ferry flight in an old S61, all the way from Norway to the Netherlands, when my father was flying for KLM helicopters.
Sometimes the crew members came down to buy something in the cafeteria, and I started to chit-chat with them when I had a chance. And on a few occasions they brought me up on top of the roof so I could see the helicopters.
I remember the paint scheme on the big helicopter, and yeah.
By the age of 10, I told almost everyone that I wanted to become a pilot when I grew up.
I'm sure that had a good impact on me, because I could see already like the teams that people are working in. Because that's what I really like about the helicopter industry. You often work in small teams who are very tight.
I always wanted to help people. I wanted to become a doctor or a pilot, and at the end I became a pilot. That's the second helmet I had. It still works. I mean, but obviously it's from the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, so I think the level of protection it will give me is probably not where it should be.
The first time I flew solo was quite an experience. It was not what I expected it to be, but it was everything I wanted to do.
The first time you get off the ground, of course, that's a really good feeling, and actually, still to this day, it still feels good. Like, I've never really had a week that I was not excited to go to my work.
I started to fly quite early, back in 1988. I was still in senior high school, so I was too young to get a license, but I wasn't too young to start to fly.
I already knew I wanted to become a helicopter pilot, but I first went to Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, where I did aeronautical engineering, and I basically did that also to have like a backup plan. But in the end, actually, it helped me out quite a bit, and during my actual flight school that I did afterwards.
I was told at the time that it was better to choose locally, so you could grow a network and apply for a job.
I realized quite early that in order to fly in either offshore or ambulance or search and rescue, I needed an instrument rating. And the fastest way at the time was to do that by a fixed wing.
And I went to Florida to Bristol Academy, and I lived there for almost 2 years and studied to become a helicopter pilot. So there I did everything from my private pilot license all the way up to a commercial pilot license and my instrument rating.
So I ended up flying in the United States a few years. I was flying Learjets.
So I was actually studying to become a flight instructor in America. During that training, I was actually called by CHC in the Netherlands for an interview. So that cut my time in America short. But of course, that was well worth it because I got my first job on the North Sea.
We moved back from the US 2004. That's when I ended up landing my first helicopter job as an ambulance pilot. I actually got to do my first rooftop landing with a helicopter on that very hospital roof where I was as a young kid, where I got to see the helicopter. So that was a great feeling.
I've been in Pegasus for 17 years now. I'm a H125 pilot and crew trainer. My first flight job was starting with sightseeing. Then we started training for sling load and HESLO missions.
Some of the more difficult tasks is building towers and taking them down. Old towers, which you don't really know what the weight is for the different sections. Tomorrow we are going to lift materials for someone who is renovating a cabin. This type of job you need to plan for different types of sling loads. So it goes a little bit time in for preparations because there's a lot of factors to weigh. Well, usually people think that we can lift everything with a helicopter and we can always take off, but I guess we have to explain like why stuff is heavy to lift since we do sling load all the time.
I started at Heli Service as a co-pilot 7 years ago, and through gaining experience I eventually got my captaincy, where I fly the 139 and 169.
We usually hear in the evening before what time our flights are, because we're like a little bit of an ad hoc service provider for the wind energy sector. So when the turbine breaks or has scheduled maintenance, that's usually when we come to assist.
So we basically bring personnel and cargo to and from wind turbines. So we hoist them down or up from the top of the turbines.
Usually we are 1 hour before the flight, and that's when we do our pre-flight check. So we check the weather, all relevant NOTAMs, we check if the aircraft is okay, and then we order fuel, the right amount of fuel for that particular flight, and do our performance calculations because of the hoisting we do. And then around 15 to 20 minutes before takeoff time, we get dressed and walk downstairs and go towards the helicopter and start up and go. A typical flight would be 2 pilots and a hoist operator. That's the crew. The customer will usually be 3 to 4 passengers, which are wind turbine technicians quite often. And then usually around 2 to 3 hoist bags. And then we fly to a turbine, and that can be anywhere from like 15 minutes flight time to 45 minutes flight time. Then we drop them on top of the turbine, we hoist them down, and then we basically fly back home usually. When the team is ready, that can be anywhere from half an hour till they need the full day. Then we pick them up again and bring them back home.
On top of the regular line flying, I'm also part of the training department. So I also plan and execute everything training related for our crews. So our simulator training, aircraft training, classroom instruction. So far it has not been boring ever, no.
Now I work with the H145 and the Augusta 139 for Norwegian Air Ambulance. You have to follow the weather continuously. We have to discuss the options, you know, how we get to where we're supposed to go, if we have to fly in instrument conditions, which airports are okay as an alternate before you get the call out. Because if you start to consider weather and alternate airports and things when you get the call out, you're going to waste a lot of time. It's just 3 of us in the crew, in the organization where I work: doctor, a HEMS technical crew member, and a pilot. So the HEMS technical crew member, he's in the cockpit with me, and he is used as a pilot monitoring. On the site, we have to be force multipliers. It's a very dynamic environment where you actually have to work very well as a team to make it work. It can be a short 20-minute flight and everything's fine, and then 20-minute back, or sometimes it can be an hour and a half flight. And we don't know what's going to happen. I enjoy being part of a team doing this to bring out the hospital to the patient, and then maybe the patient to the hospital. All the pilots I know in this operation, all the HAMS technical crew members or doctors or nurses, whoever is in the field is typically very, very dedicated. It's a wonderful job. I really like to fly helicopters, but truth is I'm not sure I would like to work as a helicopter pilot unless I was doing ambulance or search and rescue.
Yeah, a lot of people always ask if if helicopter flying is a dangerous job, but it's actually one of the safest things, because everything we do basically revolves about safety.
I don't think being a pilot is a dangerous job.
If we have an accident, it's going to be detrimental, first of all, to us and our families. If there is an accident with an ambulance helicopter in one country, it has an effect on all helicopter operations.
Is it dangerous, or I don't get those comments. Only I think about it.
Yeah, probably.
You know, we're worried all the time when they're out flying, and if I do think about it all the time, I will be nervous. Then I cannot do my duty at home, taking care of the kids.
If he's away, sometimes I'm thinking, oh, and then the weather is really bad, and I know he really enjoys it then flying, but then I'm a bit like, oh God, I hope it goes well.
It's always in the back of the head, you know. I will be happy that he comes home safe.
So far, so good. Yeah, that's sometimes you talk about it, that you think that
especially now with a kid, I'm like, oh, please let everything go well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I remember that it's probably even more dangerous to just walk around in the streets, and you can fall on your head wrong and then get yourself killed. And I think that happens more often in like car crashes and bicycle crashes than it happens in a helicopter. So I try to remind me about that.
Every work week, my goal is to come home to my family. And if I do that, everyone that is with me, they're also going to come home to the family. When I started to fly helicopters, between now and then, the risk has decreased. The rules have matured, the regulations have matured, the procedures have matured.
With a lot of emergencies, a lot of the actions that you need to take are predetermined by the manufacturer, and that's all also calculated that you can do that in a safe way. From the training we do, to the checking we do, to the rules we follow, to the procedures we have established, they're all built in a way to be more error resilient and more safe. It's far from boring, but dangerous, I wouldn't say.
We have state-of-the-art equipment, and the possibility to train has evolved something tremendously. The simulators are becoming very, very advanced and useful. So I wouldn't say it's a dangerous job. It's just a matter of managing the risks.
In Pegasus we have 23 different special operation missions. Most of them are labeled high risk, so we assess the dangers and try to address what we can do to limit the dangers for the pilot. A lot of this results in more training.
The simulator training is extremely important. It's not only a regulatory thing. We do train more than we have to. You can train in a very safe environment. There is zero risk.
Whilst you're in a helicopter, you need to always think of the safety and limit the training in all sorts of aspects.
But in the simulator, we can do endless different scenarios, because we can simulate everything. We can simulate the beautiful weather like we have right here, till any imaginable thunderstorm or bad visibility or low cloud base. But on top of that, also with the aircraft itself, we can simulate severe engine fires, all the way to like a super small subsystem that fails, which might later affect the crew's decision making. We can get into a lot of detail, and also we can, of course, push it a little bit further that you wouldn't do in a real aircraft.
You can give the pilot an emergency when they least expect it, and it wouldn't look like the normal training we do at an airfield.
Every time we go to the simulator, we train him in our company procedures, but also in how to handle emergencies and how to handle them as a crew together. On top of that, in the simulator, we can also record everything. So we can record the entire simulator session and then play it back during a debriefing, where the crews can really see and hear themselves talk and handle a scenario. So you can also pay attention to the details. So how is their intonation, or how was their initial reaction?
You can really design scenarios where people can practice their decision-making process, and you can identify holes in knowledge or skill, and you can fix it.
Working locally means that I can go home almost every day, trying to be there for my kids and the family and do the job that I love. Luckily, I met my wife before I did the pilot's training, so she knew what we were getting into, I guess. She has been really excellent in being patient with my work.
To be a pilot's wife is hard and challenging. You have to be independent because you spend a lot of days on your own. You take responsibility, and when you have kids, you have to take decisions sometimes without him, and he will get the information later on. Of course, when he is home, I relax more because I know that I have somebody with me.
1 week on, 1 week off. I worried in the beginning, before a baby, how it would be, and it is fine. I also used to it. I also didn't really know what it would be like with the baby, and it's still sometimes really difficult, to be honest, because I'm on my own, and if you don't sleep, which I don't right now, you don't have anyone that you just can give him to, or just have a break yourself, so that's sometimes really difficult, definitely.
But like we always say, the good thing is when I'm home, I'm 7 days fully home. I don't need to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So then she has like a lot more support than somebody who would have like a 9-to-5 job has, for example. But yeah, sometimes you're away, and that's part of the job.
Yeah, it's double. I'm glad that it's just 1 week. If it would be longer, I would find it more difficult, I think.
Feel that you have a partner. It's nice to have him around as well, not always fly away. And Andreas really like to fly. That's his hobby. If I suggest that he should do something else, he won't be happy. He's like a fish. If you get him out of the water, he'll die.
Yeah, I think being a pilot is, for a lot of people, it's a lifestyle. People have a little more interest in their job. I have maybe above average interest, and that sometimes can make it complicated because it's difficult to see the difference between work and free time.
So when we are on vacations, we go to a lot of flight museums, and we get to fly a lot with him.
I'm very lucky. I have a family that understands and respects my interest.
We get to see things that people that are not involved in aviation probably will not even cross their mind to do it. Like to fly, for example, the Cobra helicopter, so that was really fun. But he also had to to balance, and we do other things, not only just helicopters. But if sometimes he really needs to do things more than we can handle, it's like you can do it on your own and we can do something else. We also get the opportunity to meet other pilots and their families. So it's with the time now we have a lot of friends that in aviation.
In some ways, it's a large community, but it's also a small community.
In Coptersafety, for example, you meet so many different people from all different jobs, and we're all a little bit the same, I can tell you that. So usually you get along quite well with most of them. That's one of the things I actually like the most about it, because no matter where you go in our little industry, and it is little, you'll usually have fun.
You always know someone who knows someone within reason.
There's not that many operators in Norway, so we know about each other.
A difference between like helicopter flying and maybe fixed-wing flying, when you look at helicopter companies, the base itself where they're flying usually has like anywhere between 1 to 5 helicopters. So also 1 to 5 crews, let's say. And so yeah, you're pretty tight because you live together. You are together the whole day. So you fly a lot with the same guys or girls. That makes it automatically that you get to know each other really well, and therefore also makes it quite tight.
Right after I took the license, I added the instructor privilege. I taught school for a short while before becoming operational on this machine. I'm now working as an instructor for the company.
I became an instructor more or less by coincidence. I was doing some line flying under supervision, and I did a proficiency check, and the examiner actually asked me if I had considered to become an instructor. It came a bit as a surprise to me, but it was a very nice surprise, and so I said yes, that would be nice.
In my role as like a training manager, it's also very nice that you can give people that experience. So some people that have shown really good work ethic and they're motivated to become an instructor. I can choose people who can become instructors in our company.
That I'm able always to pass on the knowledge that I have. To work here at Coptersafety is great because I meet quite a lot of instructors from other organizations. So there's a lot of transfer of knowledge between us, and I also meet a lot of students from other countries, other cultures.
It's very rewarding to see the students handling what you've wanted them to try.
When you have some a student that is struggling with a maneuver, or he feels or she feels it's uncomfortable, quite rewarding when you kind of break the code for the student and they manage. And you can see the relief and you can see the happiness in their face when they suddenly master something.
Yeah, the feeling of being an instructor is actually a really good one because you get to help people you are working with to become better.
Aviation just put something into me, but especially the application of the helicopter as a tool to help people. So that was always kind of a dream that I had.